Hello everyone, in this video we will compare TOEFL iBT requirements for FPGEC certification between 2020 and the current requirements in 2026. We will also focus on the score changes and the new ETS scaling system for this exam. I hope this video will help foreign pharmacists understand what scores are needed and how the new TOEFL scoring system works. So basically the FPGEC stands for the Foreign Pharmacy Graduate Examination Certificate, which is set by the National Association Boards of Pharmacy through its committee that's called Foreign Pharmacy Graduate Examination Committee. The certification allows non-US pharmacy graduates to practice pharmacy in the United States and get their licensure in many US states. So to receive this certificate, you have to get through 3 steps. First, you have to get your education credential evaluation for your degree. And secondly, you have to pass the TOEFL iBT English requirement exam. And lastly, you have to pass the FPGEE exam that's set by the National Association Boards of Pharmacy. The National Association Boards of Pharmacy set minimum requirements for the passing scores of the English examination, the TOEFL iBT. In 2020, it was required to get a minimum score of 22 for the reading, 21 for the listening, speaking 26, and writing 24. The most challenging part was the speaking, because you need to get a 26, writing required 24, and you had to pass all 4 sections in one single sitting, which means that the my best scores are not accepted by the board, and you have to take the exam in an ETS center within the United States or in some provinces of Canada, which means that the home edition test is not accepted. Beginning in 2026, the ATS introduced, the National Association Boards of Pharmacy required an updated scores for all sections. So the speaking decreased slightly to 25, the writing dropped to 22, the reading also slightly decreased. However, the listening actually increased by 1 point. Still, this is something good for many pharmacy candidates who are wishing to practice in the United States, because the most challenging part was the speaking section. Even for those who are US citizens, got their degree outside the United States, they had some difficulty passing the old requirements, especially for the speaking. By decreasing this by 1 point, this would increase the chances of passing the TOEFL iBT examination in your first attempt. So this is a good news for newly fresh graduates who are wishing to practice in the United States. And beginning in 2026, the ETS introduced a simplified scoring scale from 1 to 6 for each section of the TOEFL exam. This scale is designed to make the scoring interpretation easier for many institutions, including the National Association Boards of Pharmacy. And those scores may include increments of 0.5. Does that affect us in the requirements for the National Association Boards? Not really. However, the scoring system, according to the new ETS updates, was included in the new bulletin of the National Association Boards of Pharmacy. So you are required to get a minimum score of 4 for the reading, listening 5, speaking 5, and 4.5 for the writing. So if you look at this table, you would see that the listening and speaking score of 5 is equivalent to 22 to 25 in the listening and 25 to 26 in the speaking. So it is the same requirement, but the interpretation is different. So this should not affect us at all. When you look at the interpretation of the new ETS scale, this scale aligns with the international language frameworks. So according to the National Association Boards of Pharmacy, your scores should represent your advanced proficiency in speaking and listening skills, and upper intermediate academic level in the writing and reading skills. And candidate cannot combine the scores, as I said before, from different TOEFL attempts, and official scores or results must be sent directly to the ETS, from the ETS to the National Association Boards of Pharmacy. So what does that mean? In other words, it says that all sections, or all the 4 sections of reading, listening, speaking, and writing must be passed in one single set or test for the TOEFL iBT exam. Still, the MyBest scores are not accepted by the National Association Boards of Pharmacy. So you have to pass all, or get all the minimum requirements for each section in one single test. So in conclusion, I can say that these changes are very helpful for those who are interested in becoming pharmacists in the United States, because the scoring system or requirements are much easier than before, especially for the speaking system, since it remains the most challenging step in achieving your FPGEC certification.